Why do nice guys always finish last? It's not bad luck. It's because they don't understand the game being played around them. Imagine a book so dangerous that it's banned in some prisons, yet devoured by CEOs, celebrities, and world leaders. This isn't just a book, it is a weapon. If you are tired of being a pawn in someone else's game, this 5-minute summary will hand you the keys to the kingdom. This is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It is a controversial, ruthless, and utterly compelling guide to the art of domination. Greene distills 3,000 years of history into 48 distinct laws, drawing from the lives of strategists like Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, and Queen Elizabeth I. The book argues that power is a game that is always being played, whether you want to participate or not. Here are 3 critical laws that explain why some rise to the top while others fall. First, Law 1. Never outshine the master. This is the most common mistake ambitious people make. You think displaying your talents will win you favor, but it often breeds envy and insecurity in your superiors. Consider the story of Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister for Louis XIV. He threw a lavish party to impress the king. Instead of being pleased, the king felt overshadowed and insecure. The result? Fouquet was arrested and spent the rest of his life in prison. The lesson is clear. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are, and you will attain the heights of power. Second, Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Power is in many ways a game of appearances, and when you say little, you inevitably appear greater and more powerful than you are. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. Louis XIV was famous for his silence, which kept his courtiers off balance and terrified, forcing them to reveal their own hands while he kept his hidden. Silence is not empty. It is a canvas upon which others project their fears. Third, Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. Greene advises that if you must fight, you cannot afford to stop halfway. In ancient history, those who showed mercy to a defeated enemy often lived to regret it, as the enemy would recover, harbor resentment, and seek revenge. To secure peace and power, you must neutralize the threat completely. It sounds harsh, but in the high-stakes world of business and politics, leaving a rival with the means to strike back is a fatal error. The underlying message of this book is not to become a villain, but to shed your naivety. You must understand how the game is played, if only to defend yourself against those who use these tactics against you. We have only scratched the surface of these dark arts. Now, let's dive deeper with NotebookLM to explore the remaining laws and analyze the historical patterns that govern our modern lives.
Okay, let's talk about a book that's, well, it's pretty infamous. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. You've probably seen it on a bookshelf, heard it mentioned online, or maybe someone's even warned you about it. A lot of people call it the modern version of Machiavelli's The Prince. And honestly, they're not wrong. This thing dives right into the deep end of influence, strategy, and control, and it absolutely does not hold back. So let's jump in and figure out what all the fuss is about. Yeah, right from the start, you get hit with laws like this. I mean, think about it. It doesn't say outsmart your enemy or find a compromise. Nope. It says crush your enemy totally. That really sets the stage for the whole book, doesn't it? It's this cold, raw, and yeah, pretty ruthless look at how power works. This isn't some feel-good guide on how we wish the world was. It's a look at how it often is. So, what's the whole point of this book, anyway? Well, it's all about uncovering these timeless strategies people have used for centuries to get power and, more importantly, to keep it. Greene pulls examples from, like, thousands of years of history, from ancient China all the way to Renaissance Italy. The big idea? The game of power, it really hasn't changed all that much. So let's dig into one of the most foundational laws to see what that looks like. And here we are, law number 1. And believe me, it's number 1 for a reason. This is a huge lesson in, managing your boss or anyone above you. The concept is actually pretty simple. You've got to make the people in charge feel smart and secure. If you seem too brilliant, too good at your job, you can actually make them feel threatened. And that, right there, can be the beginning of the end for you. There's a perfect historical example of this in action. So check this out. Galileo. He played this game like a grandmaster. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, a huge deal, right? He didn't just run out and shout, "Look what I did." No, no, no. He was way smarter than that. He dedicated the entire discovery to his powerful patrons, the Medici family. He even named the moons the Medicean stars. Can you imagine? In one single move, he made the Medicis look not just rich and powerful, but like cosmically significant. He wasn't outshining his masters, he was making them shine brighter. And by doing that, he kept himself safe and, you guessed it, kept the funding coming. And the whole book is packed with principles just like that. Things like, concealing your intentions so no one knows your next move. Or winning arguments through your actions, not just your words. Even using absence, like making yourself scarce to build up respect. It's basically a playbook for social chess, pushing you to be fluid and unpredictable in how you deal with things. Okay, so with all this kind of morally gray advice, you have to be asking, who on earth is reading this book? Well, the answer might surprise you. Its influence is way broader than you'd think. It's become this strange cultural landmark, studied and even applied by people in some of the most cutthroat industries out there. Seriously, its reach is huge. I mean, yeah, you'd expect it to be big in politics and business, and it is. It's a staple in those worlds. But what's really fascinating and kind of unexpected is its huge popularity in hip-hop culture. You have major artists referencing the laws in their lyrics, talking about how they use the strategies to build their careers. It just goes to show you, this book seems to pop up anywhere there's a fight for the top. And it's not just in culture. People use these laws to try and understand major world events. For instance, some sources look at Vladimir Putin's annexation of Crimea back in 2014 and see a perfect example of Law 3, conceal your intentions. The analysis suggests that by putting out misleading information and hiding his real goal until the very last second, he created total confusion. This bought him the time to make his move, leaving everyone else completely flat-footed and struggling to catch up. All right, but let's be real. For every fan of this book, there's someone who thinks it's, well, a sociopath's handbook. And that brings us to the dark side of the 48 Laws of Power. There is a ton of controversy here. The critics, they don't hold back. They argue these laws go way beyond strategy. They say it's flat out unethical, manipulative, and in the end, just destructive. And the criticisms are really pointed. First off, people say it straight up promotes unethical behavior, painting manipulation like it's just another skill you should learn. Then there's the argument that, hey, if everyone actually lived by these rules, we'd be in a world of constant paranoia and backstabbing. And on top of all that, some critics say the advice is so all over the place and contradictory that it's not even useful. So let's go back to that one law, conceal your intentions. The book says you should always hide what you're really after to keep others guessing. Sounds kind of clever on paper, right? But what happens when you actually try to live your life that way? Well, here's the pushback, and it's a big one. Most people can smell fakeness from a mile away. When you're constantly hiding who you are and what you want, you don't seem powerful and mysterious, you just seem shady. And think about it, trust is basically the foundation of any real relationship, whether it's at work or at home. This law basically tells you to take a sledgehammer to that foundation. Okay, or how about this one? Keep others in suspended terror. Be unpredictable. The idea here is to use unpredictability to make people feel a little bit scared of you. If nobody can guess your next move, they can never really plan against you. It's all about staying in control by creating a little bit of, well, chaos. But what's the logical conclusion of that? Power that's built on fear is super unstable. If your team is constantly terrified of you, they're not going to be loyal, they're going to be paranoid. And what do paranoid people do? They look for an escape hatch, or they start plotting against you to save themselves. So yeah, maybe it works for a week, but in the long run, you're just creating enemies who are waiting for you to slip up. And here's another layer to the criticism. Some people point out that Robert Greene's other books seem to say the complete opposite. Like, his book Mastery is all about hard work, discipline, and being authentic. So which one is it? Are you supposed to be this deceptive, manipulative player or an authentic, dedicated master of your craft? You can see how that would leave a lot of readers feeling like they're getting mixed signals. Okay, so if the book is so manipulative, maybe even contradictory, then why does anyone still read it? Why are we even talking about it? Well, this brings us to the final, and maybe the most interesting argument for the book. What if it's not a how-to guide? What if it's actually a field guide for self-defense? And this quote really nails that idea. The argument goes like this. You can be the most honest, ethical person in the world, but that doesn't mean everyone else is playing by the same rules. Sticking your head in the sand and pretending these dark strategies don't exist, that doesn't keep you safe. In fact, it just makes you an easier target. So, seen through this lens, the book becomes a defensive tool. Step 1, you learn the dirty tricks. You learn what manipulators actually do. Step 2, you start to recognize when those tactics are being used against you, at work, in a negotiation, wherever. And that leads to step 3, you can protect yourself. Knowledge, in this case, really is power. It gives you the ability to see what's happening and not get taken advantage of. And that's really the core of it, right here. You don't have to play the game to understand the rules. Knowing this stuff doesn't mean you have to become a manipulator yourself. It just means you know what to look for. It's about having a shield, not necessarily wanting to use a sword. So that leaves us right back where we started, with the big question. Is the 48 Laws of Power a dangerous manual that just teaches people how to be cynical and awful to each other? Or is it actually an essential guide to the messier parts of human nature? A tool that gives you the knowledge you need to protect yourself out there? The answer probably just depends on who's holding the book and what they plan to do with it.